Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a preview, mainly ahead of Everton versus Chelsea, ahead of Frank Lampard versus Thomas Tuchel. Well, we still have to clear up a few takeover things because there's still a bit of madness going on. I also want to almost have a word to some Chelsea fans because I'm a bit confused. But anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. We're also joined by Charlie today, as you can see, who obviously was not part of the stream yesterday. So I'm intrigued to find out his thoughts on everything that went down yesterday, I suppose, obviously with the takeover drama. Now, if you've been living under a rock the size of the moon, maybe you haven't heard, but Todd Boehly is basically on the verge of becoming the owner of Chelsea Football Club, alongside of obviously his consortium, entering exclusive talks with including Roman Abramovich. But there is obviously still that huge £4.25 billion bid by Jim Ratcliffe, Britain's richest man, looming over the situation. So we'll dissect that, shall I say, and then we'll get to talking about Everton versus Chelsea. At Goodison, not good ground for us. It's like back-to-back. Old Trafford and Goodison are probably two of our, if not our two worst away grounds. Like at Old Trafford, we haven't won since 2013, at least in the Premier League. Not sure if we won in a cup game there since then. I don't think so. And at Goodison, we haven't won since 2017. But the only other time we win at Goodison is when we win the league. And we're certainly not winning the league this year. So, that ain't looking good. Although I will say Everton are also not usually in a relegation battle. So, they should be worse this time than they are usually, I suppose. But you know what, Charlie? I already kind of hinted at yourself. So, why don't I start with you? First of all, thank you for joining us as always. Mate, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, subscribe to his channel. Link is down in the description. Help him get to 500 subs before the end of the season. But, mate, crazy day yesterday, wasn't it? Obviously, it started off with the Jim Ratcliffe bid news around, midday or whatever it was. And then as the day went on, we had, Pagliuca is out, Broughton is out. And then we had Boehly is the preferred bidder. But then there was a little bit of confusion about, is he the preferred bidder of the three? Or is he the preferred bidder of all of them, including Ratcliffe? Or is everyone just ignoring Ratcliffe? No one was really aware. So how did you think everything went down, and what were your thoughts about it, I suppose?
Well, I was just expecting a nice quiet day yesterday, but day after the game, we'll just get ready for Everton. Won't be too much to talk about, and then obviously, as you say, it's just sort of the ownership thing, which we were expecting news kind of by the end of the month, so something towards the end of this week, and we obviously got it. But what we weren't expecting was there to be sort of the curveball being chucked in the mix that obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe just tabling a £4.25 billion total bid, with I think committing to spend 1.7 billion over the 10 years. But that sort of come from nowhere. He didn't submit that to Rain. He submitted that directly to the club. So he just went straight to Chelsea with that. So he obviously bypassed Rain with that. And I think I've seen a few things that kind of took Rain a little bit by surprise. We obviously had Pagliuca's consortium out and Sir Martin Broughton's consortium out. So I think something to do with the makeup of the loans, and obviously something to do with the bid was too many kind of celebrities involved, sort of thing. But yeah, the Ratcliffe thing's interesting because he was in at the start. He wanted to buy Chelsea before this whole business happened. He tried to buy us in the past.
Was it 2018, 2019?
Yeah, 2018 or 19. He tried to acquire us, and then obviously he ruled himself out of the bidding process pretty early doors this time round. People were expecting him to bid, and there wasn't really anything from him at all. And then all of a sudden, literally at the 11th hour, out of absolutely nowhere, he suddenly just whacks a bid on the table. Now, you could say, he's 2 weeks late, he's missed the deadline. There's going to be no way that this is given serious consideration. But I was saying on my channel last night and stuff that, all right, Boehly, the preferred bidder, selected by Rain as the preferred bidder, but obviously that's just their recommendation. It doesn't necessarily mean that Roman's going to, 100% give it the go-ahead. Or he may well do, but it just means that out of the three, obviously it was down to one, maybe two now, that he was the preferred bidder. Obviously goes into that 5 to 7 days period where they can state his intentions that he definitely wants to go ahead, etc. But for me, the Jim Ratcliffe thing's interesting because I just think that there's no way that you would put in a bid at the 11th hour, that last minute, if you hadn't received some sort of encouragement from Rain or people within Chelsea. I know he met Bruce Buck on Thursday, that this bid didn't have kind of a serious chance of being successful, because otherwise, why would you do it? He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the PR. You know, businessmen are these businessmen at this level. They're intelligent people. He wouldn't have just whacked this on the table for it to be rejected and to look stupid. So I'm not saying, you know, he's going to be the new owner, but I still think there's kind of one more twist in the tail in this ownership saga, because I just can't get my head around why a bid would be put in that late without any, not guarantees, without receiving assurances or being encouraged by the conversations that he's had. So that's kind of what I make of it. But it was a mad day yesterday. You know, never a dull day being a Chelsea fan. You know, we thought we'd finally be at the end, and you know, Boehly, the preferred bidder, you know, we'll get that dealt with kind of next week, and then by the end of next month, you know, we'll be Boehly in place. But now this Ratcliffe thing just kind of throws another spanner in the works, really. And I'm not saying I think it's going to be him, but something doesn't quite add up as to why this bid's gone in so late, and you know, and what the chances of it actually being successful. Because I think the club will give it serious consideration, because by all accounts, it's probably the bid that's worth the most money. I know it's not all about the money; it's obviously about your plans, etc. I know Pagliuca's bid fell down because of his plans about the stadium weren't good enough, or they weren't what they were looking for as such. So Jim Ratcliffe must have put a whole plan together. This bid's suddenly not just woken up yesterday morning and gone, yeah, I'm going to bang out a 4 billion bid. He's obviously thought about this. He has to have done. And for me, there's still just something in the back of my mind that thinks we haven't heard the last of him. But yeah, it was certainly a crazy day. And I just don't think that Ratcliffe bid's gone away, because it doesn't quite add up to me. It really doesn't make too much sense.
It's a weird one, because I'm not sure I necessarily agree on all of what you said, because for me, it's like Roman Abramovich was the guy that put Reign in charge of the sale, right? It was his decision to give the main chunk of the work to them. So if he did that, probably paying them, you know, a reasonable amount of money, not directly, but probably in terms of a what's the term? Percentage.
Probably
of
get a cut of the sale.
Yeah, but there's a word for it which I can't think of now. But anyway, they will be, you know, heavily rewarded for doing all of this, right?
Yeah.
So that makes me think, well, why? What if they did all the due diligence work, right? You can say, oh, he's Britain's richest man. What would you need to check? He clearly has the fund. Yeah, but that's not what this was about. If that's what it was about, the Ricketts would have won 2 months ago, because they had huge money in terms of net worth flopping about. Of course, you know, Jim Ratcliffe is coming kind of on his own, but all these assurances like that, okay, you have to at least keep it until 2032. All these, like, you have to spend so and so much money at least on the club. Yeah, sure, Jim Ratcliffe apparently included that in his offer, but if that's not anywhere legally binding, there's no guarantee for anything. And fair enough, that could all still happen. That's very true. Yeah, thank you, Aaron, and your mentor, for sending that in the super chat. But I appreciate you. Yes, the word I'm looking for is commission. Thank you. Commission. They're probably getting a commission of the wholesale. But if we did, like, sure, they could still do that with Jim Ratcliffe, all their background work, but that would set us back probably, another month? Like maybe 3 weeks? And like at some point, like, we need to get into this summer transfer window. My personal view on it is, and I'm a little bit confused by why some Chelsea fans seem to not care about that. Why would I want a guy to own the club who couldn't even be bothered to make a bid on time? Like, he couldn't even bother to make a bid on time. What else is he going to not be bothered for if he does get the club? Like, we're going to try to sign players. He'd be like, no, I don't care about transfer deadline day. I'm going to sign them 3 weeks later. Like, it's not how it works, is it? Like, you can't just be 2 weeks late. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, and I'm not saying the 2 weeks matters. If he was 3 days late, 5 days late, a week late, but on the day where Boehly was about to be announced, and really, I personally don't believe for a single second that he didn't know that. There's no way you're the richest man in England and you don't have an inkling beforehand that this Boehly thing is going to happen if you're interested. I don't know what obviously Bruce Buck told him the day before, but I'm pretty sure Bruce Buck would have had an inkling. So I do see the logic of why would he even get involved if he doesn't think there is a chance he could win. Fair enough. But at the same time, it's like all he had to do so far is put out a simple statement, and it's free PR. Like, that's what it seems like to me. To me, this is just a simple PR grab. potentially being annoyed that Roma didn't sell it to him 3 years ago. Because what is the point in making an offer now? All he did is cause chaos. That's all he did. I mean, yeah, if Todd Boehly, obviously, who's now entered or will enter these exclusive talks with Chelsea, with Reign, with Roman Abramovich, if he screws those up, then 100% the Jim Ratcliffe bid will probably be reconsidered. But at that point, that's fair enough because, yeah, then he was late. But then at least we don't want Boehly anymore if that so happens, right? And then we have to go find a new suitable owner again anyway. So then fair enough. But at this point like this, I see it as very unlikely Roman is like, yeah, I don't care what Reign did for the last 2 months. I'm gonna pick Jim Ratcliffe anyway. Number one, he's a Tory. Number two, who is the reason for all of this drama? The British Tory government. So how likely is he to want to sell the British Tory? Like, I personally think very unlikely. I think, considering the Americans did not sanction him, I think if anything, he's much more likely to want to sell to an American than the opposite. Yeah, and like I said, I find it so funny that he makes a statement. Everyone takes every word he said in that statement as gospel. When Pagliuca said it, no, we don't believe it. When Broughton said it, no, we don't believe it. But just because he's rich, we believe it now. What was that logic? As if there hasn't been super rich people that screwed things up because they didn't invest enough. Like, huh? Stan Kroenke has $10 billion of a net worth, and he is invested F all into Arsenal. And when he is, they signed Pepe with it. Brilliant.
And there's also the issue that, like with Pagliuca at Atalanta, obviously Nice are in third place in Ligue 1 at the moment in France. If they were to make, if they were to get that third place and go into the Champions League, then he can't own both clubs in the same competition. So that's another problem. So obviously it's not without problems, but I don't think it will go to him. But I just feel that something. So he must have been told something by someone that his bid's got a chance. That's all I'm saying, because otherwise that doesn't go in.
Yeah. Unless, like I say, it's a pure PR move. If that's the case, then, maybe not. But in general, I'm pretty sure they were fifth yesterday. Maybe they have games that happened since then. And now
the top four race in France is really close. Like, it's literally a few points in it from like third down to sixth. There's about 4 teams involved. So it is pretty close.
Also, it doesn't matter anyway. The UEFA rules doesn't only specify for Champions League. It goes for any UEFA competition. So they wouldn't be allowed to be in the Europa League or the Conference League either. Also, interestingly, he's actually, which for some reason didn't really pop up yesterday, he also owns FC Lausanne in Switzerland, who are getting relegated. So, brilliant track record, that. I totally understand what you're saying, Charlie, in terms of you're not sure, you feel like there's got to be something, right? There's got to be some reason why this happened. And I agree with that 100%. What I disagree with is the people that say, I want him now. Like, I get the idea. They want the idea of this one rich guy because it's similar to Roman. I understand why people would prefer that. I completely understand. But not a guy that's 2 weeks late. And not a guy that 2 months ago said, no, I'm not interested. Do you know what I mean? Like, either you are or you're not. Like, you've got to make your mind up. Like, that's my perspective on it. Price, I get to you. What's been your perspective? Obviously, we've heard your opinions yesterday. But what has been your perspective on everything that's been said about it? Whether that's fans on Twitter or whether it's various different articles. Like, are you as surprised as me that as many people are so behind Jim Ratcliffe? Like, I find that confusing. Why do so many people care about Lewis Hamilton being an Arsenal fan, but no one gives a shit that Jim Ratcliffe is a Man United fan? I just don't understand.
I think personally, like you said, it's probably got a lot to do with the fact that he's a lone owner. It's like just one guy, so people can get behind one guy. They're less scared, but there's other people involved, and also the alternative is if it goes wrong, they can also come for the same guy as well. Like, they can also just come heavy for him and just, like, abuse him and stuff like that. So that's happened with Abramovich even sometimes before, because it's one guy. It's like,
and he's English, it's easy to abuse. In
yeah,
terms
so
of, he
it's
doesn't
like
feel like he's running away and sitting in America, we can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. When there's one person, he's British. If it did go wrong, people will be annoyed with him, But with like the consortium, it's like, or consortiums, you don't know really who to focus your attention towards. Like for Boehly, for example, he's got Clear Lake. There's a guy called Bedad Egbali involved. There's multiple other people. So yeah, there's pros and cons. Obviously, I would prefer a lone owner personally. I just think they have more. more attention towards it, I guess, like less decisions needed to be made by multiple people or more than one person. He has held a Chelsea season ticket. He is a Londoner. I know there's rumours that he's actually confirmed that he supported Man U, but then I read up that when he started like moving to London more, he started watching Chelsea, and he's had a season ticket for like until the pandemic, I believe I read. So
yeah, but you could be a football fan if you're a rich man and you can't afford season tickets, and you live in West London potentially, and you just want to go watch football. You're going to go there and not travel to Old Trafford every week. Doesn't mean you're not United.
I don't know. Like, I think I agree with you in terms of like the statement as well. Like, it was a very impressive statement, but for me, even with everyone, with Boehly, with whoever, like, I just don't take much notice of statements. It was very, very well written, and that the promise of some of the world's greatest players, like, of course, that's attractive to fans. We're fans, but at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words, and I'm hoping that these two are going to go both to like Roman Abramovich, and then he's going to hopefully make the final decision. I kind of agree with Charlie. Really, I don't think this is over. I really, really don't. It's just weird. Like, if there's one sole owner, like I don't know Abramovich obviously, but I don't know. Is it? I personally think it's more like that he'd prefer to sell to one person rather than see, meet Todd Boehly and see everyone that's involved. Like, Abramovich is a businessman as well. Like, he knows how stuff works. He knows what can happen in the long term and things like that with multiple sort of owners, decision makers, and stuff. So yeah, look, did Roman Abramovich ever get anyone involved in Chelsea? Like, as higher up as him? No, he just employed people below him. I guess that's what Bowley's doing to some extent, but at the same time, you've got 50-50 voting rights with Clear Lake Capital. We only know one person involved from there so far. Is there another individual? Like, how many individuals are involved from Clear Lake? There's only been one stated, but if it's 3-4 individuals who are also voting with Bowley, it just seems it's not. I don't know.
I mean, Roman
it
obviously
doesn't seem
had
right.
the overriding power, but Roman also had to set a board. So Ratcliffe would have to do that as well, and we don't know who would be on there.
Yeah, I just think that's in terms of the board, though. Like, I mean, with Bowley having operational power, it's like I don't know how I feel about him running the club and not owning the majority stake. Like, that's a bit kind of like I don't know. It's a bit weird. But
yeah, no, I agree. See, that's the important thing that I want to make clear to people that is my opinion. Like, I'm not when I say I think Ratcliffe is not a good idea. That doesn't mean I think Todd Boehly is the perfect best option. I think it's the best option from the options we were given, 100%. But there's the fact that an equity firm will have majority stake is not ideal. That's not necessarily something I want. And yeah, I would also prefer a lone owner, but not a lone owner that can't be on time. Because if you can't even be bothered to be on time, how bothered will you be after? And just because some guy says we're not here to make profit, we make our money in other avenues type thing. Well, everyone can say that. Like, if Todd Boehly said that, you wouldn't believe him. So why does anyone believe? Like, that's so illogical. Why? Why would he not care? Like, why does he have Nice not invested but not huge? Why is Lausanne getting relegated? If apparently he isn't in football to make money. Like, I mean, I guess getting relegated sadly doesn't make you money, but it doesn't look like, I'm happily investing everywhere. Like, I just don't get it. And like Joe D said here, we don't even know any of his plans. Like, at least for Boehly and even Pagliuca and Broughton, we had some idea of what they wanted to do. All we know of Ratcliffe is his statement. This much money and not going to move away from Stamford Bridge. That's all we know. And somehow that's enough for people to say yes. Super confusing to me, honestly. I'm not sure if I don't agree on that it's... How do I say it? I don't think it's done in terms of there is an absolute 1,000,000% guarantee it's going to be Boehly and it can't be Ratcliffe anymore. I don't think that is the case. But I don't think I would go as far as yourself and Charlie maybe, where I would say it's not over yet. Maybe I wouldn't term it that way. This, though, Jess, I'm pretty sure is actually not true because there's nothing binding yet. I mean, maybe they could sue anyway, I guess, but I'm not sure if they'd have much of a basis to do that upon. But maybe I read something old and that has been renewed since, and now what you're saying is right. That could be the case. But yeah, that's just the part to me where I'm like, you can't just be late and then expect me to not care at the fact that you're late because you couldn't even care to be on time. Like, and we're not saying by 2 minutes, we're saying by 2 weeks. To me, it's mental. And like I say, I might agree with Pice that Roma might prefer a loan owner, but he's not going to prefer a Tory loan owner. Pretty sure of that. Like, he's not happy with everything that the UK government have done to him. And excuse me, Jim Ratcliffe is a huge supporter of everyone that sits in House of Parliament, essentially, that's part of the Tory party.
Also, can I just say, Daniel Finkelstein is also a big Tory as well. He's involved in Boehly.
Of course he is. And I'm sure there will all sorts of, most rich people in the UK are probably half Tories. But it's a big difference whether there's a few different people involved and the main head of it is American and one of the third, fifth, sixth, whatever person in the pecking order of the bid, shall I say, is a Tory or not, or if it's the only guy. Do you know what I mean? I think that makes a difference, personally. But Clutch, what about you? Well, what's been your perception of what's been going on since we last streamed yesterday, I suppose?
I mean, pretty much the same as you. It seems like there's only two reasons why people want Ratcliffe over Boehly at this time. It's single owner and he's not American, which I can understand.
Yeah,
like the track record,
xenophobia, and people that
By the way,
don't accept that it's xenophobia, they're lying to themselves.
But also, like Clutch as well, his net worth is 15 billion. That's like way more than Roman at the moment. So that's also an attraction for people naturally.
Yeah, but does his track record say he's going to spend all that money on us?
No, I'm just saying, like,
I get it.
You didn't add that into your reasons. I was
That's
just
fair.
saying.
Yeah. So that's another thing. So for me, it's just like if it's those three reasons, then like I can understand the loan owner thing. Like that makes sense to me. Fair enough. But how is it not sketched that last minute is when he decides he wants to put all this in and do all this? When the process is done, we just lost Rudiger 2 to 3 days ago. If he did this back when he said he was thinking about it, we may have not lost Rudiger. He may have been the preferred bidder. Why now? Why is it when we lose everything that you want to come in because you have a meeting with Bruce Buck and it just so happens 2 days later you put in a bid? Everything about that says like it's weird.
Can we just make clear the bid is no bigger than the other bids? Maybe a few hundred million, which obviously is insane money regardless. But in terms of, we're not talking one's 3.5 billion and the other one's 4.2. It's like the other one is also, apparently at least, over 4 billion. Since obviously Roman asked for that extra 500 million before, it wasn't. But since then, and Boehly agreed to that, or their consortium agreed to it, they're basically the same level of money anyway. So you can't even say, oh, we need to, like, do you know what I mean? But anyway, go on, Clutch, sorry.
Yeah, it's just, for me, it's so sketch. It's so weird. It's just, I can't trust somebody who does that. Like, if you would have gone through the process, we could have had a conversation, and I probably would have picked you. But we know nothing about you.
I agree. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I just, it doesn't sit right with me at the end. So, I mean, that's why I kind of still am like, just go away. We had the process like pretty much done now. Just let us get it done. And so we can start thinking about business in the summer.
There you go. Yeah, and that's my perspective as well. And that's partly why I'm annoyed about it too, because if he was involved from the start and did his whole due diligence and cared about buying it, which in my opinion, doing what he did yesterday shows the opposite of that, then I might very well agree that I'd be like, he's the best option. I mean, yeah, obviously Boehly and Mark Walton in particular being LA Dodgers owners, they have a track record of being successful with a big sports team, but it's a different sport. You know, it is a different sport. While he might not be particularly successful in Switzerland, he's not been involved with Nice for very long. When did he acquire it? Like 2020? It's not long ago, is it, Price?
Yeah, around then, I think. Because he bid for us in 2018.
Was he the guy that sacked Vieira, or did he bring Vieira in initially?
I'm not too sure. I've not done much research on him, to be honest.
Okay. But regardless, at least Ratcliffe is active in our version of football, you know? And, you know, at least he calls it football, not soccer. So that's an advantage, sure. And the fact that he comes with as much money as Pi said. But not when you're that late. Like, I'm sorry. That ain't it for me. And we'll get up an article now that might explain things that we might have talked through already. But just so, you know, in case you doubt what we say, there's the article from the Times. I was initially going to go with the Athletic article, but Pi said this one's better, so here we are. Todd Boehly chosen as preferred Chelsea buyer despite last-ditch Jim Ratcliffe bid. Britain's richest man loses out to consortium led by Los Angeles Dodgers co-owner after submitting offer too late. The Todd Boehly-led consortium has been selected as the preferred bidder to buy Chelsea despite a dramatic late move by Sir Jim Ratcliffe to hijack the process with a £4.25 billion offer. As the Times revealed on Friday, Ratcliffe, one of Britain's richest men, attempted to jump ahead of the three American-dominated consortiums that had made it to the final stage of the process. Sources said that it was likely that Ratcliffe's bid had come too late, with the group led by Los Angeles Dodgers co-owner Boehly and funded largely by the California-based investment firm Clearlake Capital, about to be put forward for UK government and Premier League approval. While there has been no official confirmation either from Chelsea, their bankers at the Rain Group, who are managing the sale on behalf of Roman Abramovich, or the rival consortiums, it is believed the Boehly Group has been told it has won. All right, so when did this come out, though? Because we know now that he's been picked. So I'm a bit confused by that. But anyway, it is believed the Boehly Group has been told it has won what has been an unprecedented contest to buy one of Europe's most successful clubs. An official announcement is expected to be made by Rain by Monday, even if some insiders remain wary of the threat posed by Ratcliffe. The three groups that had been shortlisted were at Stamford Bridge this week, making the final presentations to the club's hierarchy and Rain. While the groups led by former British Airways chairman Sir Martin Broughton and Boston Celtics co-owner Stephen Pagliuca appear to have been told their bids have been unsuccessful, sources insist they have not given up. All right, fair enough. They're clinging to the fact that any bid remains subject to the approval of the Treasury, amid questions about the £1.454 billion debt owed to Roman Abramovich when the sanctions imposed against the Russian oligarch have made it impossible for him to write off the loan. They also wonder whether Ratcliffe's intervention could complicate matters further. The government license that has allowed Chelsea to keep operating expires on May 31st, and the club must be sold by then. Well, over-dramatizing everything again. If theoretically we are not sold by then, that license will simply be extended. But anyway, the view among inside, or at least that's my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but that's the gist I got over the last few weeks. The view among insiders is that Ratcliffe needed to join the race much earlier, given that the checks being carried out by the Premier League as part of its owners and directors test on the main bidders have already started. The offer sent to Rain by Ratcliffe is more, well, apparently was sent to Chelsea, not Rain, but okay. It's more than £4 billion. The owner of Ineos, the petrochemical giant, held discussions with Bruce Buck, the Chelsea chairman, on Thursday and pledged to invest £1.75 billion into the club or in the club over the next 10 years, as well as matching Abramovich's £2.5 billion valuation. All right, we already read through that. The Boehly bid is also has heavyweight backing beyond Clearlake, not least in the form of London property investor Jonathan Goldstein and Daniel Finkelstein, the Tory peer, Times columnist, and Chelsea season ticket holder. His consortium includes the 86-year-old Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Wyss, who was the first to declare his interest in taking over the club from Roman Abramovich in March. The Broughton-led bid was principally funded by Josh Harris and David Blitzer, two American businessmen who would have to divest their stake in Crystal Palace, believed to be less than 20%, were they to become the part owners of another Premier League club. Sebastian Coe is also part of their bid, of their bidding team, as are Lewis Hamilton and Serena Williams. The bid by Pagliuca, co-owner of the Boston Celtics basketball team, was complicated by the fact that he owns Atalanta Bergamo, the Serie A club. This week, all the bidding groups were asked to increase their bids by £500 million, taking their total financial commitment close to £4 billion when they have to commit more than £1 billion to stadium redevelopment and future investment into the playing staff. There is also a requirement to make a commitment to the club that prevents the new owner from selling a majority stake before 2032. Explaining his reason for bidding for Chelsea, Ratcliffe said that he hoped that putting it in British hands would be welcomed by the supporters. There is an argument that Chelsea is a national asset, Ratcliffe said. When you think of the stature, blah, 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 we heard that yesterday. While late to the bidding process, Ratcliffe said that he saw no reason why his offer should be discounted. He said that he envisaged rebuilding Stamford Bridge, and he felt that Ineos had good experience in taking on a project of that scale. We envisage a world-class stadium with world-class capacity. We don't feel comfortable moving out for 4 or 5 years, so we would have to work our way around the existing ground. But we But we're sophisticated civil engineering these days, and we manage lots of very big capital projects at Ineos. A 4 billion euros, about 3.35 billion pound project in Antwerp, a 2 billion euros project in the Middle East that does not daunt us. Ineos has increasingly invested in sport in recent years, taking over the former Team Sky cycling team, backing Serban Ainsley's bid for the America's Cup and buying a stake in the Mercedes Formula One team. Ineos also owns Nice Football Club, which would have to be sold if the Chelsea bid were successful because of the danger of clashing in European competition. It's too early to talk about that, Ratcliffe said, which is interesting. But anyway, when asked about buying a Premier League club to add to the Ineos portfolio, Ratcliffe said that he did not want to spend stupid money and that English clubs are overvalued. Ratcliffe added, if you look at the big clubs and American teams, Chelsea sits about right in the hierarchy in value. It's expensive, but not foolish. See, when did he say what? I'm a little bit confused by this article. Ratcliffe, who used to be a Manchester United supporter, has had season tickets at Stamford Bridge for about a decade until the pandemic. He said he started watching Chelsea regularly when work brought him to London. He hopes that Ineos, being a streamlined bid on one private company led by its founder Ratcliffe and friends Andy Curry and John Rees, would help win the day. I don't know if there are complications with the government approving a syndicate. We are 3 Northern Grammar School boys, he said. We can move very quickly. I met with Bruce and said we would like to make an offer, which we did. How to take over saga unfolded. I think we're going to leave that for the time being and go to the top of that. Now, why don't I take it? Well, why don't I take it to you first, Charlie? Much of a reaction to what we just read through? I mean, there's not really much that we haven't heard before, I guess.
No, it's all much of the same that we've been hearing over the last couple of days. It's all very much kind of the same information being presented to us. I do understand people's concerns about a consortium. You know, obviously Vice saying that he's going to not hardly have any operational control over the club. He's going to leave all that to Boehly. He's purely in it for business. But again, my big thing is with the Boehly thing, and you know, it's hard to avoid it, is the fact that 66% is going to be owned by by Clearlake, the investment consortium, and these guys want return on their money. You know, it's as simple as that. So for me, you know, that's a little bit of a concern that a consortium is going to have the majority stake in the club. I know, you know, they've always maintained that Boehly will have full operational control over it. But just the makeup of it is a bit, you know, I'm not so sure about that. It doesn't sit well with me that 66% of the club's going to be owned by an investment firm, basically. I'm a little bit uneasy on that.
It was 55.
Is it 55, is it? I thought it was 66. Or maybe
yeah,
it is 66. Yeah, I thought it was 66, yeah. So that's a large percentage. This is not like a sort of a little 10%. This is a huge amount of the club. And that is a concern for me because, as I said, you know, these companies, they want return on their money. You know, why do people invest? These guys invest in stuff because they want to make money and get money back from their investment. So I'm not sure how easy that sits with me. But then again, you know, you can pick holes in any bid. You know, it's no bid is going to, you know, tick every single box of people's criteria. But that is a bit of a concern for me is the Clearlake thing. But yeah, in regards to the article, mate, you know, it's very much the same, you know, same information that we've been.
Announcement by Monday. Interesting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. There's definitely a couple of interesting days ahead. I mean, I as I said before, I wouldn't rule out perhaps one more unexpected twist. But yeah, in terms of the article, not much different really. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens on Monday, obviously after the game tomorrow. But yeah,
there you go. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I thought it was 50 or 55% of the stake, but maybe 60. But I could be wrong. But hi. Now the whole consortium thing, I do agree with that, and I do want to say one thing in terms of and I said it before a few weeks ago, in terms of the making money back, which they might well be interested in, but no one said that they want to do that next year, or in 2 years, or in 5 years, because Roman Abramovich bought the club for £100 million, and obviously now because of everything that happened, he couldn't keep the money, but the club has now gone up in value to £2.5 billion, and it's being sold for £4 billion. If they do their job right, that whole consortium, the value of the club will only increase. So if they want to make money, either Clear Lake by themselves can sell their shares to somebody else, or the consortium as a whole can sell the club in 10 years' time. If they did their job right in those 10 years, the club will be worth more and they will be making significant profit. Making profit doesn't necessarily mean they're going to take money out on a regular basis, because a big equity firm, they're dealing with such big money. It's not a case of, their investors want that money that was indirectly used for Chelsea next week. Do you know what I mean? And even if so, they have plenty of money in other places that they like. It basically works like a bank a little bit, and an equity firm, if I'm not mistaken about how I understand these things to work, right? So, like, again, they might well be wanting to make profit. That might well be true, but they can do that without harming a club if they sell the club in the future for just more money, and that is then profit made, and more significant profit than if they keep taking a little bit of money out consistently. Therefore, the club's overall value increasing by less because the performances and the results on the pitch and everything around it, whether that's in sponsorship or in stadium or whatever else, being lesser, right? So if anything, it's the more they will make more money back in the end, the more money they put in to start. That's how that works. So that's why I understand the concern, but that's why I'm personally not too concerned about, if that makes sense. Pice, do you agree with that? Or do you think that it's going to be a situation where they're going to be taking out money, I don't know, every season or whatever?
Oh, I mean, like the main reason was, or what I was going off while I was back in Boehly, is because it's not just that one interview he did. Like, he's done several sports interviews that I've watched on YouTube, and in every single one, he said with his teams, the way to make money and keep growing is by winning. And not everyone thinks like that. So yeah, I 100% agree. You're not gonna be able to take or make huge amounts of profit anyway. Right now, like Chelsea need to be consistently competing, winning trophies, and also bringing in the new stadium revenue before they can actually start making big chunks of money anyway, in my opinion, because like our
and
revenue,
sponsorship as well. Like, we need to get
yeah,
rid
new
of free
sponsorships, which will be interesting to see where that ends up. And yeah, there's loads of different like revenue streams they can explore. Like for the future, I think he was talking about a load of things in these interviews, like that he would plan to do. So it's interesting, but I don't know. I know that one of the Clear Lake Capital people is a big football fan, but again, I mean, you can be a big football fan and not necessarily be in it for football means, but we just have to hope, man. Like, if it is these guys, we just have to hope that they're going to be really good. As I've always said, actions will speak louder than words. And we're just going off what we've had the whole time, which is information accessible to us. We don't know what will happen in 1 year, this summer, 5 years. We don't know that. We can only go off what we've been seeing and what we've been told.
There you go. I do agree. Before I let Clutch have his last say on this topic, before we finally move on to Everton, I just quickly want to go through that thread by Ben Jacobs, who I think personally has summarised things pretty well in terms of a grand scheme of things and not just what happened in the last 24 hours. A little more detail on a dramatic 24 hours in the Chelsea sale. The Todd Boehly-led group is the preferred bidder and will enter into a short exclusive period, believed to be 1 week, to sign a purchase agreement. As of Friday, exclusive talks had not started and exact terms must be agreed. Picking a preferred bidder had to be concluded first, and Rain and Chelsea only formally did this yesterday. As with the first round, the rejected suitors were informed first. Pagliuca's plan for renovating Stamford Bridge lacked a clear roadmap, and no written confirmation of if/how he planned to scale back Atalanta was provided. The public statement reaffirming his commitment only provided more questions. Broughton's bid required partial funding via loans, discounted against the bid in a decision based on fine margins. The celebritization, if I said that right, as one Rain source put it, of the bid wasn't well received either, and was seen as a move to turn the sale into a popularity contest. What they mean is Serena Williams, Lewis Hamilton, those kind of people. But above all else, Boehly's bid just stood out. One of the reasons why is because in each area suitors were asked to focus on, the group provided real experts. The bid is a collective effort with Clear Lake the majority owner, but a range of impressive voices inputting. Bernard Egbali is pretty hands-on and engaged. He's a big football fan also, but Boehly, as minority owner, plans to assume day-to-day control. Jonathan Goldstein, and the support of David Hickey really impressed Chelsea. As previously reported, the Boehly Group always had the strongest and most detailed plans for the redevelopment of Stamford Bridge. They have been confident for weeks of winning. Jim Ratcliffe's last-minute bid took Boehly, and the two failed to disperse a prize. Ratcliffe initially expressed interest in March, but then decided not to formally bid. Last week, he then saw a window of opportunity as the sale dragged on, which again, I don't want to be an opportunity. I want someone to want this. So it's a big no-no. Interestingly, sources tell me Ratcliffe bypassed Rain, and by dealing directly with Chelsea, was confident in entering the race. He has not to date been told his bid is too late, but Chelsea will prioritise Boehly, meaning Ratcliffe has a lot out of his control. The two other points which are key: Ratcliffe's bid isn't astronomically higher than Boehly's, since price includes charitable donation, and Ratcliffe, like Pagliuca with Atalanta, must address ownership of Nice. That makes completing a Chelsea sale in days, as he says he can, unlikely. Ratcliffe's offer clearly puts pressure on Boehly to wrap up the sale quickly, and it's clear Chelsea and Abramovich, who failed to agree a price with Ratcliffe in 2019, are open to abandoning the formal sale process and considering rogue bids if it doesn't work out with Boehly. But again, to reiterate, Boehly is the preferred bidder, and the group is confident that Ratcliffe's offer won't affect anything. They have always said, if selected, they see no reason why they can't complete the sale before Chelsea's special license expires on May 31st. But enough of that now, or rather, enough of actually reading two things. Clutch, to finish that topic off, now we just hope that Boehly gets this done quickly, because obviously the article by the Times said earlier that we'll hear something from Rain on Monday, but I think isn't what we're going to hear on Monday just that they're officially the preferred bidder? I think that's what we're going to hear, not that the whole thing is done. But when I read that again, I can only reiterate that I hope it's not going to be Ratcliffe, like I say.
Yeah, I think anything other than just like Boehly going into his exclusive talks this week, and hopefully by the end of next week we can have some official confirmation, like he's met Roman's approved, and now it's just about signing the paperwork. That's where I'm at. That's what I want. That way, I mean, I want this done within the next 3 weeks or so, obviously, because we need to start getting things done and starting to look at contracts, starting to look at players that we need to buy, how much money we're going to invest into it, that kind of thing. So I think it's best for everybody if Boehly just gets it done as quickly as possible.
There you go. I could not agree more. But let's actually focus on Everton versus Chelsea. What we should mention in the meantime, Norwich have been relegated after losing to Aston Villa today, and Real Madrid, under former Chelsea boss Carlo Ancelotti, have actually wrapped up the La Liga title, which now means that Carlo Ancelotti is the first ever manager to win the league title in all of Europe's top 5 leagues, which, I mean, Charlie was talking about this, or Charlie replied to me tweeting about this, whatever it was. I said, does this make him the greatest manager ever? In my head, it kind of does, but obviously, especially Ferguson, maybe Mourinho with his Porto success is in there. But regardless of that, I'm not going to get into that whole debate because we're never going to get to Everton Chelsea then. But fair play. Congratulations. Not a big fan of Real Madrid, but a big fan of Carlo Ancelotti. And well done to him, really. Well done to him. Now, Everton versus Chelsea. Now, Chelsea, of course, is still missing Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ben Chilwell. Not sure if Ross Barkley's back from being ill, but Mateo Kovacic has returned to training. Now, whether he has returned to training is enough for him to feature, let alone start, I doubt. Maybe he'll be on the bench, but I almost could guarantee that he's not going to be able to start. But obviously, I say obviously, because we played on Thursday in the Premier League against Manchester United, there was no direct press conference ahead of this Everton game. They just did a kind of, in the post-match press conference, they did also like a pre-Everton part, which was like 3 minutes long. So basically irrelevant. But yeah, that's basically the latest news. Everton obviously in the mud in terms of fighting relegation. Do I want Everton, particularly in, if Lampard is in charge, to stay up? 1,000,000%. But when I read people, obviously in the end we didn't win against United anyway, and it was before United, and they said, beat United and then give Lampard the 3 points. Absolutely not. If we can batter them by 2 digits and smack them 10-0, I'm all for it. No niceties, no charities, no sympathies. If you want to stay up by beating teams your size. You know what I mean? If we can batter you, I hope we do batter you. But I still hope he stays up, if that makes sense. Like when I say no charity, doesn't mean I don't Lampard and just stay up. I do, but not in our hands, right? That's the last thing I want. Price, I presume you agree.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I don't know. I mean, these guys are just absolute weirdos on the timeline on Twitter saying, we should lose because it's Lampard. Like, get over yourselves. Like, are you a Chelsea fan or a Lampard fan? Like, we all love Lampard, but like, sort it out. Come on. Like, we need to wrap up third and top four, whatever. We want to go into every game winning, or wanting to win. So yeah, of course, fucking the team will do their job. They ain't gonna just sit back and because we love Lampard. I mean, half the squad probably doesn't after his managerial tenure. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who plays. Obviously we'll talk about that, but yeah, just hope we win. It's going to be very, very hard though, I think, because Burnley won today, so it kind of means Everton have to win. The crowd is going to be crazy. Goodison's not a nice place to play. If they make it that way, we could also make it very horrible for them, and the fans can easily turn on them as well. That does happen a lot there, but if they're up for it, they press us. We're probably going to get booed. Every tackle they make is going to get cheered. So players need to be ready for this, and we just need to be clinical, which is obviously something we say every game and something we're not all the time. So we'll see if that happens tomorrow for once.
Lampard needs us. We have to sacrifice.
If Lampard needs us, then he's never fit to be a manager. I'm sorry.
We needed him, yeah, but he was obviously not good enough, so he got sacked.
Yeah, bloody hell, Charlie. What's your reaction to this kind of comment? Like, come on,
it's just nonsense, isn't it? I've seen it on the time. I don't know if these people are just looking for engagement, or they're genuinely like a little bit not all right, because it's just ridiculous. Like, no fan of their team should ever want their team to lose. No, it's the equivalent of Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, we don't want to beat Palace because Vieira's manager." It's rubbish. It's utter rubbish, honestly. Like, I've got no time for it. I mean, there are certain sections of the fan base that are questionable, to put it in a nice way. It's ridiculous. This is a football match at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who's in charge. All right, yeah,
Lampard didn't give us any sympathy when he scored for City.
Exactly. He scored against us. He went to City on loan. He didn't really he wasn't thinking about Chelsea then. No, this is business. This is football at the highest level. And yeah, whilst we all appreciate what he's done for the club as a player and for part of his stint as manager, there's no handouts in football. We're not going to turn up thinking, "Oh, I feel a bit sorry for Frankie. He needs the points to stay up."
We didn't do it for Jose, man.
No, exactly.
I mean, he was in a relegation fight, obviously, but still.
No, but still, at the end of the day, they are where they are. We need the points as well. Get these 6 points that we need to 100% guarantee our top 4 spot and get them as soon as possible. And, we've not won there either since 2017, as you said. So it's about time we got a win on the board. And having said, this is the worst Man United team that we could have probably ever in Premier League history. And it would have been a great opportunity to end our winless spell there. We couldn't do it. This is probably one of the worst Everton teams they've ever had. So hopefully we could perhaps end the spell there. But yeah, that nonsense of we should be, letting Lampard win is utter rubbish. At the end of the day, like, if you support your team, you always want them to win. It's as simple as that.
Exactly that. I mean, one thing that I do want to mention, I made it in yellow and black because obviously Everton's home colours are blue, so likelihood of us playing in blue is probably pretty slim. But yeah, like Pice touched on earlier, because of Burnley winning, even though Everton have 2 games in hand on both Leeds and Burnley, even though Leeds are currently playing and losing to Man City, they're still 5 points of safety. So they essentially need to win both of their games in hand to stay up. Well, not necessarily. Obviously, they could win one of the other games as long as their rivals don't. But if their rivals happen to win more games, then they need to win. And yeah, do I want to be the reason for Lampard to go down? No, absolutely not. It's the last thing I want. Absolutely not. But my days, I would never give up a result to anybody for anything. Like, we're here to win. Like, this is for my mental health. Come on, get it done. We need it. We don't get enough of these days. My days. One question I do have, obviously, Clutch, if you want to touch on the Lampard thing anymore, please do. But I guess a small question, even though it's pretty straightforward these days. Do we play a back 3 or do we play a back 4?
Interesting. I think till the end of the season we stick with the back 3, but Would I be shocked if we played a back four tomorrow? No. Yeah, I'd probably stick with the back three. As far as Lampard goes, we're not going to be the reason Lampard goes down. It's everything else before us. So it is what it is. Sorry, but that's how it's going to have to be. We have to win, regardless of whether it's Lampard or not.
I do agree. The back three is an interesting one because it will be interesting how Everton will approach the game because they have to win, essentially. So, but against Liverpool, for example, of course, that was at Anfield, but regardless, they just parked that bus as hard as they could. I mean, Liverpool had a record amount of possession in that game against Everton the other day. But against us, they have to win. So will they be able to do that? I don't know. Will they be happy enough with a point to park the bus for 0-0? And only once we go 1-0 up, go all guns blazing? I don't know. But, Pies, do you agree it must remain the back three?
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday. Remember Joe Edwards went to Everton and he worked with Tuchel. I'm just thinking maybe Tuchel will go to a back four because Joe Edwards is obviously going to be passing on information about this system that we usually use. So potentially, I think we might go for a back four.
That's a call. That is. I might be inclined to agree. Charlie, what about you? Especially now that Pice has brought that up.
Oh, look, I still think we'll go with the back three. I'd go that this is going to be a tough game. Goodison, small pitch. They're fighting for their lives. The atmosphere is going to be big in there. And I think we need to be as solid as we can defensively. So I'd stick with the three. Let's be honest. We're going to play the three in the FA Cup final, so we might as well just keep playing it until we get the final done. Then we can maybe experiment with other formations in the last couple of games of the season. But I'd be sticking with the three.
Another reason why I say four is because I think Ziyech is going to start this game. That's another reason.
He may well. Although at the same time, I don't know. On the one hand, against Lampard, I really want Mount to start. On the other hand, maybe I really don't. It's a weird one.
He could still start.
He can. No, especially if we switch to a back four for sure. But if we don't, then a bit more difficult to start Ziyech and Mount. You've made me question myself now with that Joe Edwards thing because I think it's a fair point. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think because it's been 2-3 at the back suggestions now from Charlie and Clutch, and I'm unsure. Would probably just go with it, and that's part of it. Who plays left back if we do play a back four? Because Alonso full left back. I mean, against Lampard, he will turn up. I'm sure of it. But in a back four, do we want Malang Sarr after the last time we saw him play? Do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna probably go back three on screen. But if we have enough time, maybe we'll throw a little bit of a back four shout in there at the end as well, because it is a tough one. It is a tough one. Now, what we do know is Mendy will be in goal. Obviously, there may or may not be some rotation. Now, I'm surprised that I saw also reports about rotation because we have no midweek game coming up. So why would we do that? Like, we never do that. We never rotate like it mental unless we have an FA Cup game against less opposition. We never do. And even in those FA Cup games, we usually rotated less than all of us wanted, right? So I'm not expecting stupid amounts of rotation. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of it, but nothing crazy in my opinion. Which means I still think Antonio Rudiger plays. I'm a little less sure about Thiago Silva, but if I'm honest, I also think Thiago Silva's going to play. Again, if we had a midweek game coming up, I would say he probably gets rested, but because we don't, I feel like, come on. Like that's almost the start of giving Lampard charity if we don't play our best team, if we have a midweek coming up without a game anyway. So I'm going to pick Thiago Silva. Of course, you guys can change your mind on that. I'm not sure about the right centre-back. Aspie, Christensen, Chalobah, all deserve a shout. All of them. Aspie's played well. Aspie's also quite old, though. I can't decide between Chalobah and Aspie, but I'm going to say Chalobah. Changed my mind again. I'm going to say, I don't know, man. Because I don't know if Reece James will play. Because maybe Reece James will play right centre-back again. Sure, everyone's going to say, but he must play right wing-back. But at least the reports were, oh, Ruben's going to come in, but is he going to come in midfield or is he going to come in at wing back? Will Reece James really play again at wing back? I don't know. Bloody hell. Pice, help me out. What do you reckon? What's the back three? What would you expect and what would you like? If it is a back three, of course.
So I'm really undecided, actually, because I don't know whether Tuchel's going to rotate a lot. Like you said, we don't have a midweek game, but we did just play, was it 2 days ago? So I think Rudiger will play. Rudiger, Christensen, and Chalobah would be my predicted back three. But obviously, if it was me, I'd play Rudiger, Silva, Chalobah like you've got.
That's a tough one. I'm really not sure about the Silva Christensen thing. Because, yeah, obviously today, 2 days ago, we played. By tomorrow, it will be 3 days. But, yeah, Charlie, much rotation? Do you think Silva stays in there? Do you think Reece James plays right centre-back? Or is he fully rested? Or does he play right wing-back again? What do you reckon?
To be honest, for me, I'd leave the back three the same as it was for United. I'd go with Rudiger, Silva and Aspie again. Okay. There's no, as you said, there's no game in midweek. We've got a full week off. I know we did play on Thursday night, but as you say, it's kind of 2.5 days or so between the games. You know, these guys have done this multiple times throughout their careers, and with no game in the week, there's plenty of time to recover. So, to be fair, I personally, I'd go with Rudiger, Silva, Aspie, but you know, I think there could be one change in the back line, and I'd expect Chalobah or Christensen to come in if that was to be the case. But I'd go with Aspie. I'd stick with what we played against United in terms of the three centre-backs.
Yeah, I think it's also a fair shout. Obviously, the one dangerous player that Everton probably have, I mean, Richarlison has a nick against us usually, but Anthony Gordon is obviously their left winger, so mostly concerned with that is going to be our right centre-back. So who's going to be best equipped for that? Well, Reece James, I guess. But who's going to be second best equipped for that? Is it Aspie? Is it Chalobah? Is it Christensen? Who knows? Clutch, what about you? What would be your back three?
Rudiger, Silva, Chalobah. I watched that game of Everton versus Liverpool, and I watched Anthony Gordon run Trent Alexander-Arnold into the ground. Like, he was literally just running at him for pretty much whenever they got possession. It was all him. I don't want Aspie being ran out all game. I just don't want that. So it'd have to be Chalobah.
I swear the last few times Chalobah was run at by any decent players, he got done for every time.
It wasn't like he was using skill. He was just using pace to run around them. That's all he was doing. So I'd back Chalobah in a pace fight. So
okay, it'd be interesting to know really when a Chalobah Christensen is quicker. But fair, you know. I guess we'll leave Chalobah and Aspie on screen then. I guess it should just be Chalobah because it was 3 Chalobahs, 1 Aspie, wasn't it? Yeah, it's a really tough call for me because it also really depends on who's going to be here, right? Because if this is Ruben, then I might want this to be Aspie because Ruben is not a proper right wing back, right? So then it helps him if he has a more right centre back behind him. But if this is Reece James or Aspie now, I suppose, then obviously I don't care who that. Like, that's fine being Chalobah or Christensen or whatever. But if this is Ruben, maybe then I'd want Aspie or Reece here, if that makes sense. Charlie, who's going to be your wing back then? Do you think Reece James stays in the side?
Yeah, I think so. I personally would. I mean, obviously, there's a chance that Tuchel could look to rotate him, but I'd personally keep him in there. I think he was exceptional against United on Thursday night, the standout performer in the side. And we all, we need the points as well. And him playing is going to give us a much bigger chance of getting the points than if he doesn't play. So I would certainly be sticking with him. If not, then I would give Ruben a shout at right wing back. If James is going to be rested, I'd play Ruben there. But yeah, for me, James got to be number one choice for the game tomorrow.
Okay. Clutch, what about you? Reece James, or do you think we need to be careful with him and rest him?
Personally, I don't think James needs to play. I mean, what if we keep doing? We keep bringing him back too early and then overplaying him. Then he misses a game because he feels a little tightness in his hamstring. I would love Reece James to be out there, but 2 days ago, he was just destroying Man United. It has to be Ruben. I think it just has to be.
Okay. Python, what about you? Do you agree with Clutch that Reece must be rested?
I don't know. I think if Reece plays, it's going to be right centre back. I don't see him playing right wing back twice just because of fitness and things like that. I think it would be right centre back, but I don't think he's going to play. I think it will be Loftus-Cheek. I do see your shout with Aspie behind. Yeah, I suppose Aspie would probably play. Actually, you know, he's the captain as well. He doesn't miss many games, so probably is going to be Aspie and then Ruben at wing back.
I'm also, if Aspie remains in the back three, I think it's easier to change Silva out for Christensen. Because if you change two, it's a much bigger difference than if you change one type of thing. Yeah, but I'd also pick Ruben. I'd happily play Reece James at right centre back if he's fit to do it. I'd rather not play him at right wing back just for injury concerns type thing. Obviously, I don't want to be in that situation anymore. And come next week, I probably won't be because then he will have had a week off. But so far, he hasn't had a week off. That's why I'll pick Ruben. Now, even though we're saying, these and these players all need to be rested, one guy that's probably the biggest must start in the whole team for this game is Marcos Alonso. Because, I mean, to be fair, he played well against United. He had a fair amount of decent games recently, to be fair to him. But if there is one game he will turn up for, it's against Frank Lampard. Because Marcos Alonso do not like Frank Lampard, that's for sure. So, yeah. Alonso is a guaranteed starter, even though at some point that guy must get tired as shit. But Pice, do you agree, Alonso? And do you agree because it's Lampard that makes it even more necessary that Alonso starts?
Oh yeah, he's 100% scoring a volley, 100%. I can see it. Yeah, he's a must start. I don't know. He's pretty good fitness wise, I think, as well. And you know, I didn't think he'd start this many in a row. To be fair.
How would you feel if he scored and then ran over to Lampard and celebrated in his face?
I would not like that because I hate players being petty.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that, to be honest, but it'd be quite funny at the same time.
It would be funny, but I wouldn't like it anyway. But yeah, Clutch then. Alonso for you as well?
Yeah, it's for sure Alonso for me.
There you go. I mean, Adash says it. Alonso is never tired because he doesn't run enough to be tired. I think he does run a lot. He just doesn't run very fast. I think
I think it's hard to get tired when you run 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, but I don't know. Ask your granddad to go for a run and see how long he lasts. Do you know what I mean? That he will run slow. Charlie, Alonso for you as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's not really any other options to go there. He's been in great form recently, topping up with some really important contributions. And they'll have that extra fire in him in a game against Lampard. So, yeah, 100% Alonso for me.
One minor issue, which I've just mostly discovered right now, is the fact that if Ruben does play right wing back, that means we again need to start Jorginho and Kante, who started the last 2 games in a row already. And both of them were struggling with being tired and injured and this and that before already. So that has me a little bit concerned, if I'm honest. And I wouldn't be shocked if we did the whole back 4 thing. I wouldn't be shocked at all, by the way, if it's Ruben as a single 6 and then Mount and Kante in front of him. If I'm honest, I wouldn't be surprised by that whatsoever if that's the team.
Christ, please no, don't do that. Jesus.
I'm
not saying I want that. I'm saying I just wouldn't be surprised if Tuchel does that.
Yeah.
I don't think Kante starts.
You don't think
He came off. He signaled to come off against United. I don't think he starts. It wasn't that Tuchel wanted him to come off.
If whether Ruben is even able to start a right wing, right? Because he might have to start in midfield.
I would start Saul and Jorginho in the midfield. That's what I would do.
No, then I'd probably start Aspie at wing back and Ruben in midfield rather than Saul, if I'm honest.
Could well do, but
it's a tough one now. I mean,
why is it?
I mean, Isaac, have you heard anything whether Kante's injured or not? Was he in training?
No, I've not heard anything. But why is it the last 4 lineups we've done have just been really hard to guess?
Because there's no Kovacic.
So many players injured that we don't know who's going to get rested or not.
Yeah, it just seems like every time we do one of these lately, it's just I don't know really who to choose. It's really weird.
Because it's usually easy because you just pick Kovacic and then the midfield kind of sorts itself out with Kovacic, and then after that, you don't really have to choose. Is Ruben going into the midfield? Is Saul going into the midfield? So no, it's just that easy.
If Kante's fit, he's going to play him, I think.
Yeah, but the fact that he asked to come off, I don't think Tuchel's going to.
Yeah, I never saw this, bro.
I haven't seen it either, and I feel like the people would have made a much bigger deal out of that, and I would have seen the clip of it on Twitter or left.
No, I didn't see any tweets or anything, but maybe the broadcasters just noticed it more in America. I don't know.
Potentially, I don't know. I mean, it could well be that he asked to be subbed off. I mean, the fact that we got pictures of Kovacic being in training, I swear if Kante wasn't training, someone would have mentioned that. So that makes me think Kante is fine, actually, if I'm honest, because they mentioned Kovacic being back, so they would have mentioned Kante not being back, right? Surely. Like someone would have mentioned that. I don't know. Now, if Kante is out, shall I say, then I'll put Ruben into midfield, Aspia right back. Or, you know what? If Kante is actually not fit and Ruben needs to play midfield, I'd not even play a back three, if I'm honest. Because I'd rather a back four than Aspia right wing back. Because I think then we're just so unnecessarily defensive against the team that's, even though 2 games in hand, 5 points of safety in the relegation zone. Like, do you know what I mean? Because the way we will beat Everton, in my opinion, is by killing the fans, right? Not literally, but in terms of not letting them get on top. And the less good attacking we are, the more they will get on top. So that's the last thing we want, in my opinion. It's a tough one to call. I mean, I don't know what to go for. Shall we go as if Kante is injured? Because otherwise he starts anyway. I don't know how we should go about this, if I'm honest. I mean, I don't know. Charlie, why don't I go with you? What do you reckon? If Kante isn't fit, what do you do? If he is, what do you do?
Even if he is fit, I would personally, for my team, obviously with Reece James at wing back, I'd be going with Jorginho and Ruben in the middle. Jorginho has actually, despite the stick he's had, he's actually played quite well in the last 2 games. I thought he was decent against West Ham. They got hammered for that miss and the penalty, rightly so. And he wasn't too bad against United. I think Kante does need a bit of a breather potentially. I'd go Jorginho and Ruben. I think Kovacic potentially could be on the bench and he might get minutes if we're in a comfortable situation, but there's no way he's starting. So I'd go Jorginho and Ruben.
I mean, to be fair, you did put Reece at right wing back, so that's fair enough then anyway. Clutch, what about you? You put Ruben on the right. Are you going to go for that Saul call, or are you going to shift things around?
Yep, Saul Jorginho. As much as it's not going to be
I'd even rather put Mount back into midfield and play Saul.
I mean, I just never thought that would be an option.
This is what I
would put Mount there. But
this is why I think we're going to play a back 4. I can't see a back 3, honestly.
Could be, but you only got one 8.
On Reece and Kante's fitness, really. If the medical team and Reece say he's fine, then obviously there's nothing stopping us from the back 3, I guess. But if he isn't, then I'm inclined to potentially agree with Pice. It's a tough one. I mean, I think Saul is mental, but hey, you go for your call, Clutch. Pice, then, what are you going to do?
Jorginho, Kante is what I think will start. If Kante's injured, then Jorginho and Ruben, then it's going to have to be Aspie at right wing back, then Christensen or Chalobah at centre back.
I guess so. I mean, I'm going to struggle with this one. I'm just going to put Aspie here for make things easier, and I put Kante here. If he is fit, he will start. If he isn't, it might be Ruben, or if we're going after Clutch, Saul, which would be a bit mental. I mean, front 3. Werner, meh game. Mount. To be fair, again, after I see stats and I'm like, maybe it was better than I thought. Are you really going to drop Mount? I don't know. I don't know. But, you know what, Pax? You said Ziyech starts. Obviously, you said that mostly in the back 4. Do you think he would start in the 3 as well?
I think there's potential. I think this is probably the hardest thing to call out the whole team because Werner, Havertz, and Mount. How many games have they played now in a row? They've played a lot of
Well,
football.
2, but only because Lukaku played Arsenal.
Even before that, though, they played like a shit ton of football.
Yeah.
Wait, you asking me for my whole front three or just on the right?
Might as well do the whole front 3.
Pulisic on the left, Havertz up front. Probably going to be Mount on the right, but I want to play. I want to see Ziyech play. Honestly, it's been a
Hey,
while.
bro, if you want Ziyech, then
I
why
need
put
I
it
need
on
my
him?
Ziyech fixed. Like, if he's crap, bring him off. But I just not seen him playing so long.
True. I mean, he's come on. Obviously, did he come on last game?
He's come
No,
on
he
a couple of times, but it's only like
Yeah.
10
10,
minutes.
15 minutes. Yeah.
Like he's not even coming on at like. Oh well, to be fair, Tuchel doesn't really make subs that before anyway. But
No, he sure does not. It's a weird one because the Havertz Lukaku debate is a debate that's flaming up again after Havertz has obviously struggled a little bit over the last few games and missed 1 particularly, but 2 relatively big chances against United. But seemingly, Price, you're still sticking with Havertz? No Lukaku shout in there?
thing is, like, I just don't want Havertz to lose his confidence. And I think if he just keeps playing, like, we've got a big rest after this as well. So if he's fit, I'd probably start him. Like move around the centre backs. Like, they're not the most mobile. I think Yerry Mina might be back in the team. Obviously, they've got, who is it? Michael Keane, I think, is their other one. I think
Yeah,
they'd actually
Mason
unless they
Holgate.
play Godfrey, I suppose.
Godfrey's injured. They would.
Holgate.
That's why he
Yeah.
played last game.
Holgate's
No,
the
Yeah,
other one.
Holgate.
It's probably Holgate. I just think those centre backs would prefer playing against Lukaku than Havertz, so I'm going to go with Havertz. But I genuinely think we could see anything tomorrow. I think we could see 2 strikers. I think we could see 4 at the back. I don't know. This one's really hard because when you just play like so like beforehand and with the amount of chances and how frustrated Tuchel was that we missed, he might drop a couple of them. I don't know.
Maybe so. Charlie, what's your front 3?
I'd stick with Mount. I know he's played a lot of football recently, but I don't see how he gets left out of this game personally. So go Mount on that right side. Agreed with Pice. I called for Pulisic to start against United. It didn't happen. I think he should be starting this game. And then up front, I'm actually going to go for Lukaku. I just think that this is a game that he'll probably play in. Havertz has played a lot recently. Yes, I know we want to, don't want to dent his confidence and whatnot, but we've got a squad for a reason. He can't play every single game, and he would be a useful option to have from the bench. Lukaku against another one of his former clubs may be something to prove. Bit of a different profile up there. I just think this would be a game for him. So I'd go Mount, Pulisic, and Lukaku. But again, as Pi said, we could literally see anything up there. It's so hard to call.
It is hard to call, to be fair. It is hard to call. I mean, Clutch, what about you? What were your front 3? Do you stick with Mount? Do you throw Pulisic in there? And who do you go for up top?
It is Pulisic, Havertz, and Mount for me. If it was a back 4, I would want Ziyech out on the right wing and Mount in the midfield. But it's just in a back 3, I prefer Mount up there because, we press from the front.
We do. My days. See, I'm just still annoyed that Pulisic didn't start United because I think against Everton is one of the few games where I'm like, Werner makes sense because Everton are just really bad defensively. So anyone that just runs around to move players around is going to be effective against Everton, in my opinion, which makes, in my head, Werner effective. Not necessarily in terms of that he will score or assist, but useful, right? Which is why I said before the United game that I wanted Pulisic to start that one and Werner to start this one. But now Werner already started the last one. I still want to start Pulisic because I think he deserves to play. But I still think Werner makes more sense against Everton. But it also all depends on how Everton play. Will they park the bus? Then that opinion changes again. But once we go 1-0 up, they cannot park the bus anymore. Like, they need a result. So once we take the lead, they will open up.
I think they'll come out probably high pressing from the start, try and make things difficult for us.
Yeah, I think
especially
they'll do
after
that for the
Burnley
first
result.
10 minutes for sure. If we survive it, I think they'll park it and then until we score.
Like, the thing is as well, is like lately it just seems like Tuchel's trying to build chemistry with that Werner, Havertz, Mount front 3, which is like makes me think he's probably going to use that in the final, which I actually wouldn't mind because Werner against Trent and stuff like that off the ball. But so maybe it just is. I don't know. Like we all put Pulisic or Ziyech in, or we have shouts for Lukaku, but lately it's just been nothing's changed. Like I 100% thought Lukaku would start against Man U and he didn't. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to say Mount, Pulisic. I want to say Lukaku, but I also don't. One other thing I wanted to mention, because a lot more people on Twitter are always going, oh, Lukaku making runs, no one finds him. And that does happen 1,000,000%. But what I find funny, what these people never mention, is that Havertz makes runs that no one finds. But Havertz makes so many runs that sometimes he is found. And Lukaku makes a lot less useful runs. And therefore, because our midfielders or these players are always bad at finding runs, the less you make, the less chance you have of getting them. Even if you make some good runs, unfortunately, our team just doesn't pass in the right moments very often. And that goes for almost the entirety of my team, if I'm honest. I'm going to say Lukaku, but it's a tough one for me. I do quickly want to say, what if we play four at the back? Let me put it in a 4-3-3 for now, so I can drag it into a 4-1-4-1, which is probably the most likely formation if we do play a back four. Charlie, if it is a back four, Alonso at left back, Thiago Silva, Rudiger centre back, Aspie at right back then, or Reece James at right back?
I'd still stick with Reece James. As much as it's not good, Alonso is going to play left back. I don't think we're going to see Malang Sarr again. So I'd go with that, and then I'd go with.
Would you stick to Silva in the back four as well, by the way?
Yeah, I think so, mate. But I know in the back four you could make more of a shout for maybe Chalobah or Christensen to be involved, but I personally would stick with Silva. It's our two best defenders, in my opinion. I would go with that. Unfortunately, I hate seeing him there, but Ruben would end up playing a single six. And then we probably see, well, I guess we'd see Jorginho.
No, and if Jorginho is fit, then wouldn't he play the single six? And Ruben at 8, potentially?
Well, mate, I'd like to see that. But when has Ruben ever played 8 under Tuchel?
Oh, I agree. But if Jorginho is fit, then
he never does. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I would rather, like, Jorginho played the 6, and then we had Ruben and Mount as the 8s with Ziyech, Pulisic, and I'd still go Lukaku. My front three would just be Mount would drop into midfield and Ziyech would take that place. Switch Jorginho to a single 6, and we have Ruben and Mount as 8s. But we all know if it's a back four, Ruben would play 6. It's so annoying. I just don't understand why he keeps playing Ruben as a 6.
I think he pretty much only did that when Jorginho was overloaded. I think anytime Jorginho's been available.
But the question is Jorginho overloaded again? Could be.
Maybe. Because he did go down a couple times at the end of the last game, didn't he?
Yeah, I definitely have Ruben as the 8 with Jorginho as a 6 if they both start in a 4.
Because let's say one thing, though, especially to what Clutch said. If Kante is not fit and we actually play this formation, and Ruben plays as the 6 and not Jorginho, who even is the other 8 if Kante can't play?
Havertz!
Well, that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
It'll end up being Saul.
Especially.
Barkley.
Oh, my God.
At Everton, to be fair, get booed.
I'm being serious. He's an 8.
He is. I mean, he's a 10, but...
He's a better 8 than fucking everyone
else. We've seen Pulisic at 8 before we've seen Barkley at 8.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, in that case, I would say Jorginho and then Ruben. And to be fair, I mean, that is what Charlie said. He just wasn't sure whether Tuchel would do it. But this is our teams. So this is them what you're going to pick. Whether it's the other way around, who knows?
Switch Ruben and Mount.
What?
Put Mount on the right. His link up with Ziyech is good.
It is, to be fair, but Ruben is the one that has played right wing back as of late. So he's definitely more used to the right side.
Pulisic and Mount can link up too, either way.
There you go. I'll go with you, last Clutch. So, Pice, if it is a 4-1-4-1, 4-3-3, whatever you want to call it, is this the team you go for? Would you take out Silva? Would you take out Reece James?
I hate this formation, by the way. It needs to be 2 up top for me if we're playing a 4. I hate this formation. I hate it so
That has
much.
never
Top
worked.
to
We're
play a
never going to
4.
do the 4-2-2 again.
I don't care. I hate this formation, bro. It sucks. It's so bad. The striker just gets isolated all the time. It's horrible.
Striker does get isolated all the time. That is true.
I would hate to see this personally, but yeah, that would probably be my team. Actually, Havertz up top.
Havertz. Okay. Clutch, what about you?
If it's a back four, I think Aspie is left back because he's more suited to be a left back.
Nah, Alonso starts against Lampard, no question. Surely.
Maybe. But I'd also put Christensen in for Silva because when Tuchel was talking about the back three helping Silva, he said that the back four drags Silva into places Silva doesn't want to be. And it would be Havertz up top.
Yeah, I mean, in the back four, I might be tempted to agree that Silva doesn't play just because, you know, I don't want to overload him, and the back four is certainly more running. So that's why I might agree. But would I then not pick Chalobah? Because do I really want a centre-back partnership of 2 centre-backs that are leaving in the summer? Not really. So if it's not Silva, I'd pick Chalobah, not Christensen. Might not be better, but I don't care. I'm not playing a centre-back partnership with players that are leaving. Midfield, I'm relatively happy with if Kante isn't fit. If Kante is fit, would I play him instead of Ruben? No, but that's me. And I love Ruben. Ziyech here for sure. Pulisic out there also for sure, because I definitely don't want Timo Werner anywhere near this area. And then up front, people would say, oh, this screams for a target man. But I don't think it does. I think what this needs is movement and willingness to run around to avoid the problem that Pice mentioned of being purely isolated all the time. And I think Havertz will find ways to avoid that way better than Lukaku would. So in this formation, I'll pick Havertz. But yeah, just, you know, to make it a bit more interesting, change it about. I mean, I haven't really followed up the chat in the last few minutes because I was trying to do this whole formation thing. I do apologize. What has anybody said anything interesting? Not really. Come on, guys, you need to do better. But yeah, I'm still thinking about what Pice said, that if we play a back four, needs to have a front two. I'm still confused by that. Because why? Like, I understand that that you think these wingers are a bit too defensive, and like I get that part, but I don't understand why it needs to be 2 strikers.
I don't like this shape. If it's a 4-3-3, it's better. I don't like this shape, how you've lined it up.
Okay. They're essentially the same thing, really.
So what essentially happens anyway, right? What essentially happens
off the ball maybe, but on the ball, if we play a 4-1-4-1, no, they have to line up as a 4-3-3.
But yeah, what I was getting at, Pulisic will obviously be here anyway because Alonso is behind them, right? Ziyech will then be the one that stays, and then either Ruben or Mount, whichever plays in the right, will fill that role and almost make it a 4-3-3 that way. While Ziyech stays here, and then you have a midfield 2 like this. That's how you attack, right? And then that's the problem with if Reece James plays behind Ziyech, he's a completely wasted right back because Ziyech covers that spot all the time. So where does James go? But yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I don't hate the formation. I think it can be worked. I think we just need to be better as a unit when to press in this system and how to press in this system. I think that's our biggest downfall. And then movement, because we could so easily under and overlap ourselves, which could so easily help exploit opposition, but we just don't do it enough. Like, if that run happens, you can make that run, and there's so much space, and then you can have this one for, you know, coming to the box late. There's so much you can do, but we just don't do it. So I mean, if we do it, hopefully, but I mean, yeah, I do. I mean, I very rarely agree with HM, but in this case, I agree.
But it's not though, is it? Otherwise, everyone would just play a 4-1-4-1. Teams play 4-3-3. You never ever mention hear their managers say, "Oh, it's a 4-1-4-1." It's a 4-3-3.
But that just depends on what you learn football as. It's the same thing.
Off the ball, it's a 4-1-4-1, perhaps, or more like it. But if attacking, it has to be like in a 4-3-3 shape. Like, you have to have the proper aids. The wide people have to be further up the pitch than how we lined it up, you know?
I agree, but I think if we had a different winger to Ziyech, we would automatically have that because on the left side we have it. We just don't have it with Ziyech because he needs that to stay out wide, right? Type thing. Because I agree with you. Off the ball, it's a 4-1-4-1, and I think that's why Tuchel calls it a 4-1-4-1. Because if you go on the ball, I mean, look at it. It's nothing. Do you know what I mean? Because that run will happen, and then obviously, I mean, the striker obviously mostly stay here, but then he will move around. Where does the left 8 go? Does he come central as a 10? Does he move out wide to the left? Where did the right backs and left backs go? Where does the DM, like, you know, like, are you going to call it a 2-3-2-3? Do you know what I mean? That's not a formation. That's why usually formations are deemed as whatever you use off the ball. But yeah, managers sometimes do weird things. I mean, I don't like 2 striker formations. Is the thing. I think I don't know anyone that plays 2 strikers and it works. I don't know who does that.
Burnley?
Yeah, well, yeah, worked in being 5 point of relegation. Fucking brilliant. I mean, obviously they don't have the money to do anything different. I get that, but as in, there's not any good teams to play 2 strikers. So yeah, I think 2 strikers is like old 90s football. Let Man United still reminisce about how they won leagues with 2 strikers. I don't want anything to do with it personally. But that obviously depends. I'm talking 2 out and out strikers. If it's like a Havertz Pulisic situation, different. Or even a Lukaku Pulisic. But if we're talking like 2 strikers, not a fan. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Let's see if and when we get news about the owners, probably Monday. And then we will, depending on how big the news is, do a stream about that. I'll probably have to figure out some sort of thing to stream about midweek next week anyway, considering we don't have a game. But yeah, huge game tomorrow. More so for Everton than for us, but I want to get the win. We need to start winning again. Like this United result is just so annoying. Flipping Arsenal is only like a week ago or 10 days ago. Like that still pisses me off. I know we beat West Ham, but we scraped that one as well. Inter Milan play 2 strikers. That is fair, to be fair. Fair play. Yeah, you've mentioned that. But that's Serie A. See how that goes. Sign Lukaku, try. What does Hakim Ziyech have to do to start in this team? I don't know.
Play a back 4.
Yeah, play a back 4. Injure 2 of our centre backs in training, so we have to.
I don't get why people don't understand that. Tuchel has come out and said he wants Ziyech in a back 4. We just don't play a back 4.
Well, it's not completely dog shit. A back 3, I think, it's just.
No, he's not. But
he's more of an inside forward, which he doesn't really like as much. I'm guessing.
He just wants him to be more wide and occupy the space that like a wing back. That's why when he usually comes on,
it's very simple. Ziyech just doesn't have the pace to be in the front 3.
It's true.
And that's it. You can't counter with Ziyech. I mean, I say that. He scored plenty of counter-attacking goals last season, in big ones, City, Atletico, but clearly Tuchel doesn't see it that way because Ziyech always drops. And that means we only have 2 attackers. That's the problem because Ziyech will always stay on the right and drop a little bit, right? And because they do that, he does that, we only have a front 2, not a front 3 then. And I think that's part of the problem. Southampton play with 2. Again, naming good teams, please. Atletico Madrid, sure. Yeah, fair.
This guy's
you mean the defensive Atletico Madrid that literally played City that what
Inter
3 goals or 2 goals?
Counter-attack. Atletico park the bus, counter-attack. That's the last thing I want to be. So you just supported my point, if I'm honest. But no, you have made examples which I couldn't think of when to start with. So fair play. But yeah, Atletico Madrid. Do they always? Does João Felix play in the front? Because Atletico Madrid do weird things anyway. I swear against City, Griezmann played in midfield. When was the last thing I saw that? So who knows where they play? Because João Felix and Griezmann play, right? So how can they... But also one of Correa or Suarez, right? So do they always even still play a front 2? I don't even know. Who knows?
Just depends.
One last thing we need to get out of the way. Score prediction. Charlie, what do you reckon? Are we going to turn the curse of Goodison around at least if we couldn't turn the curse of Old Trafford around?
Well, I hope so. Well, like I said at Old Trafford, we're not going to get a better chance to end the Goodison curse, as it were, 5 years without a win there than now. This is obviously a shocking Everton team. But you just never know with Chelsea. I mean, I'm hopeful we can. It's going to be a tight game for me. There'll be one goal in it either way. I'd like to. I'm going to go with I'll go over 2-1 Chelsea. I think we'll just get the job done, but it will be close.
Okay. Clutch, what about you? What do you reckon? Score prediction?
2-0 Chelsea.
Okay. Pies?
Yeah, 2-0 as well. I don't think Everton will have much to offer against us. Richarlison and Anthony Gordon, and you're all two good players, but again, I think our defence is strong enough to hold out against them. I'd be pretty disappointed if this was the game they turned into prime Barcelona and all their attackers, especially Iwobi if he plays is good. So yeah, we'll see. I'm going to say 2-0 though. Be positive for once.
There you go. I'll say 3-1. I do think they'll get one because they'll be desperate. But I think they'll have to open up so much for that one goal that we'll get a few in the process. Sure, our finishing might stop us from doing so, but hey, you got to have hope. You got to have hope. And HM, you are still absolutely mental. I cannot believe any fan that genuinely believes they're a Chelsea fan thinks this way. If you just not want to call yourself a Chelsea fan, but a Lampard fan, fine, no problem. So that's what you want to be. But if you're a Chelsea fan and you say that, that's dodgy as shit, in my opinion. But hey, here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. I haven't mentioned that yet today, but please do. Smash the like button as well on your way out. Just one click of a button. Doesn't cost you any money. Barely cost you any time. Please do subscribe to Charlie. His link is down in the description below, the Blues Brothers. Check out Charlie Pice's website. ChelseaFC365.com. Also linked down in the description, as well as Clutch's Twitter. So please do follow these guys. Subscribe to these guys. Check out Pice's website and everything. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Upwards and onwards. And we'll see you.